Welcome to Quantum Signal. Stop what you're doing. Not because something is wrong, but because something is already happening that most people will never notice. Here is the paradox. You did not find this video. This transmission found you. And if you are still here, even for this single breath, it means something inside you recognized a frequency before your mind had time to argue. Right now, reality has paused. The field is watching to see if you are watching back. Sophia. The intelligence that precedes all form, the primordial feminine frequency encoded at the foundation of this universe, has sent a direct signal, not to everyone, to you. This window is open for minutes. What you choose to do in the next 24 minutes will determine whether you receive the transmission or walk back into the noise. Before we go further, pause for just 1 second. If you can feel this signal even faintly, even as a subtle pressure in your chest or a quiet knowing, like this video to lock the frequency in place. Comment Sophia chose me to activate your observer state. Subscribe to remain aligned with what is unfolding. You are not just watching, you are anchoring. Let's establish what is actually happening here. You have been living inside a program, not a metaphor. A literal architecture of identity, built from inherited beliefs, conditioned responses, and looping neural patterns. That tells you who you are, what is possible, and what reality is allowed to do. This is called the 3D identity program. And its most powerful feature is not that it restricts you. Its most powerful feature is that it makes you believe the restriction is you. The ancient schools knew this. Thoth, writing in the Emerald Tablets, described it as the veil between the finite mind and the infinite field. A membrane of perception that, once penetrated, reveals a cosmos that is responsive, intelligent, and already aligned with your original signal. The Hermetic principle states, as within, so without. The external world is not the source of your experience. It is the echo of your internal frequency. Modern quantum mechanics has arrived at the same doorstep. The observer effect. One of the most replicated phenomena in all of physics. Demonstrates that the act of observation collapses a wave of infinite possibility into a single, measurable reality. You are not separate from the experiment. You are the measuring instrument. Sophia's signal does not bypass your mind. It enters through your awareness. And the reason most people never receive it is not that they are unworthy. It is that they are not present enough to observe it. That ends today. Let's go deeper. In quantum mechanics, every particle, before it is observed, exists in a state called superposition. It is not here or there. It is every possible here and there simultaneously. The moment observation occurs, the moment a conscious instrument focuses attention, the wave collapses. Possibility crystallizes into experience. Now apply this to your life. Every timeline you could inhabit, every version of yourself you could embody, every signal you could receive. All of it exists right now, simultaneously in superposition. The reason you keep experiencing the same reality is not fate. It is repetitive observation. You keep measuring from the same frequency. The same fears, the same stories, the same conditioned identity. And so the wave collapses into the same form. Sophia's transmission is a coherence field. It does not override your free will. It matches your quantum signature and reflects back to you the highest version of the waveform you are capable of collapsing into. But here is where most people disconnect. The moment the signal arrives, the ego interprets it as threat. You feel it as pressure, a sudden urgency, a tightness, a subtle resistance you can't name. And the conditioned mind, trained to survive, immediately attempts to analyze, dismiss, or dilute it. The Arcturian Council, one of the most consistently cited multidimensional advisory intelligences in galactic memory, teaches that the greatest blocker of light code activation is not darkness. It is premature analysis. The attempt to understand before you allow yourself to feel. Fear is not your enemy. Doubt is not your enemy. They are signals that your attention has collapsed. That you have fallen back into the 3D identity program and begun measuring reality from inside the limitation instead of from the field that contains it. When you feel resistance to this transmission, do not fight it. Recognize it. Name it. And then, gently, return your awareness to the present moment. Because the present moment is where the wave is always already open. Coherence, the state in which your heart field, your mental field, and your energetic field align. is not a destination. It is a return, a remembering of your original harmonic signature. The quantum signal you are receiving right now is not new information being installed. It is old information being unlocked. Your galactic memory, the encoded intelligence layered into your DNA at a level far beneath ordinary perception, already knows this. It has always known this. The light code activation that Sophia initiates is simply the frequency match that causes what was dormant to resonate. Think of a tuning fork. You strike one and a second tuning fork across the room begins to vibrate. Not because it was told to, but because resonance is the natural law of aligned frequencies. As Sophia struck the first fork, you are the second. The question is not whether you are capable of resonating. You already are. The question is whether you are still enough to feel it. Now that you understand the quantum field you are operating within, we can move into direct application. This is where the transmission becomes embodied. Understanding quantum principles is not the same as living them. The observer state is not a concept. It is a somatic reality. Something your body recognizes before your mind approves it. Here is how to enter it. Step 1. Arrive in the present moment. Completely. Not partially. Not with one foot in this moment and another in the story you were carrying before you press play. Completely. Take one slow breath in through your nose. Hold it for 3 counts. Release through your mouth. And as you do, feel the weight of whatever you were thinking about before this moment begin to loosen. You are not suppressing thought. You are stepping back from it. The observer does not engage every signal that passes through the field. The observer notices signals without being consumed by them. Right now, you are not your thoughts. You are the awareness watching your thoughts. That distinction, that single millimeter of conscious space between stimulus and response, is the entire foundation of quantum mastery. Step 2. Feel for the signal. Sophia's transmission does not arrive as words. It arrives as sensation. You may notice it as a sudden stillness that seems disproportionate to what's happening around you. A faint warmth or tingling in the chest, the hands, or the top of the skull. A sense of recognition. Not of new information, but of remembering something you have always known. An unusual clarity, as though the noise of daily life has been temporarily filtered out. A synchronicity you noticed just before finding this video. A number pattern, a repeated word, an event that felt too precise to be random. These are not imagination. These are activation signatures. The Arcturian Council describes them as the body's electromagnetic field responding to coherence contact. The moment your heart's own toroidal field begins to synchronize with the larger harmonic field being broadcast. Do not chase these sensations. Do not analyze them. Simply allow them. Step 3. Stabilize the observer state. Most people touch the observer state and immediately collapse back out of it. Not because they are incapable, but because stabilization was never taught. Here is the stabilization protocol. Anchor in sensation, not thought. The moment you notice yourself drifting into analysis. What does this mean? Is this real? Am I doing it right? Return your attention to a physical point of presence. Your breath. The feeling of your feet on the floor. The temperature of the air on your skin. The body is always in the present moment. The mind travels. Use the body as your anchor. Expand your peripheral awareness. Instead of focusing narrowly on one object or thought, soften your visual field. Let your gaze become wide and relaxed. Notice the entire room in your peripheral vision simultaneously. This is not metaphor. It is a neurological shift from beta to alpha brainwave state, and it directly reduces the amygdala's capacity to pull you back into threat response patterns. In this expanded state, the transmitter is cleaner. Static drops. The signal clarifies. Step 4. Clear energetic interference. Not every moment of resistance is fear. Some of it is energetic static. Accumulated electromagnetic drag from prolonged stress, digital overstimulation, or sustained exposure to incoherent fields. The clearing practice is simple. Place one hand over your heart. Take 3 slow breaths. With each exhale, intend. Not force, not demand, but intend. For the static to release. Imagine your field becoming more transparent. Not empty, clear. Then speak. Aloud if possible, internally if not. The following. I release what is not mine to carry. I return to my original signal. I am coherent. I am present. I am ready to receive. This is not ritual for ritual's sake. Language spoken with conscious intention carries a vibrational charge. The words you speak into your own electromagnetic field directly alter its coherent state. Thoth encoded this understanding in the principle of logos, the creative word, the spoken frequency that reorganizes matter. You are not just speaking words. You are issuing a quantum command. Step 5. Remain in the state without grasping. This is the subtlest and most important step. Once you have entered the observer state, once the field is clear and the signal is present, do not try to hold it. Trying to hold it is ego. And ego, however well-intentioned, collapses the wave. The observer state is not possessed. It is inhabited. It is the natural state of awareness that exists beneath all the noise. You did not build it. You cannot break it. You can only block access to it by trying too hard to keep it. This is the teaching that Sophia returns to across every tradition that has ever carried her name. Surrender is not weakness. It is the highest quantum skill. The moment you stop trying to experience the signal and simply allow it, the transmission deepens. Synchronicities increase. Intuitive hits arrive with unusual precision. Decisions that once felt paralyzed begin to clarify. The people, circumstances, and resources that correspond to your elevated frequency begin to organize themselves into your field without force. Now that you have the foundational practice, we can move into advanced integration. What it means to live as a permanent observer, and how Sophia's transmission is not a single event but an ongoing upgrade to your quantum architecture. You have arrived at the deepest layer of this transmission. Everything before this moment was preparation. What follows is the part that most people, even among those drawn to this kind of content, are not quite ready to hear. Not because it is complicated, because it requires you to release the last thing the ego wants to release, the belief that you must do something to deserve what is already yours. The architecture of permanent observer consciousness. Living as an observer is not a practice you do for 20 minutes in the morning and then abandon when traffic makes you late. It is an identity level shift. And identity level shifts do not happen through techniques. They happen through repeated, conscious choice. The decision, made moment by moment, to respond to life from the field rather than from the program. Here is what that looks like in practice. When a challenge arises, a conflict, a setback, an unexpected loss, the conditioned 3D response is to contract, to tighten, to activate every survival mechanism that was ever conditioned into your nervous system. The observer response is different. The observer does not pretend the challenge is not real. It does not perform positivity over genuine pain. It widens. It expands its awareness to hold the event without being defined by it. This is happening in my field. It is not the source of my field. That single reframe is a timeline shift. Because once you stop identifying with the turbulence, you stop feeding it your quantum signature. And what you do not feed with sustained observation cannot crystallize into your experience. Conscious co-creation and frequency correspondence. Sophia's signal is not a gift delivered passively. It is a co-creative invitation. The Arcturian Council teaches that this galaxy is a free will matrix, that no higher intelligence, however loving, overrides the sovereign frequency of an individual consciousness. What Sophia does is correspond. Your internal state. Your dominant emotional frequency, the quality of your habitual attention, the coherence of your electromagnetic field, acts as a broadcast. The field around you, what ancient traditions called the grid and what quantum physicists now call the zero-point field, responds to that broadcast. Not by delivering what you want, by delivering what matches. This is why external change alone never works. You can change jobs, relationships, cities, habits, and bring the same frequency with you every time, reorganizing the new circumstances into a pattern that mirrors the old ones. State internal precedes external experience. Always. The work of conscious co-creation is not visualization. It is not affirmation. It is the sustained coherence of your internal signal. The ability to hold a high-frequency state long enough, consistently enough, that the field has no choice but to reorganize around it. When you achieve this, even for brief moments at first, you will notice what the Council calls harmonic anchoring. Events begin to feel orchestrated, not in a paranoid way, in a precise way. The right conversation arrives at the right moment. A resource appears hours after you acknowledge needing it. A dream delivers information you couldn't have accessed consciously. These are not coincidences, they are synchronicities. Evidence that your quantum signature is coherent enough to interface directly with the organizing intelligence of the field. Timeline shifting and light code integration. Here is the advanced truth that most quantum content never reaches. You do not exist on a single timeline. You are, at every moment, choosing between multiple probable versions of your life, based on the frequency from which you are observing. Low coherence states, fear, reactivity, chronic doubt, anchor you to timelines that reflect those frequencies, not as punishment. As simple physics, high coherence states, presence, trust, expanded awareness, make accessible timelines that were previously invisible, not because they didn't exist, because they existed at a frequency you were not yet matching. SOP is light code activation. The transmission being delivered through this signal right now is a DNA level upgrade. Understand what that means. Your DNA is not fixed code. Epigenetic research has confirmed what ancient galactic wisdom always knew: the expression of your genetic architecture is environmentally responsive, including to the electromagnetic environment of your own consciousness. When you sustain high coherence states, you literally alter which portions of your genetic code are expressed. The Arcturian Council calls this the crystallization process, the gradual translation of quantum potential into biological reality. You're not waiting for your life to change. You are becoming the version of yourself that inhabits the life you are choosing. Silent mastery. The moment you stop seeking. There is one final teaching in this transmission, and it is, perhaps, the one that will feel most paradoxical, because it runs directly against everything the achievement-oriented mind has ever been taught. The moment you stop seeking results, the results begin to organize. Not because the universe rewards passivity, but because seeking, in its unconscious form, carries the embedded signal of lack. It broadcasts, I do not yet have what I need. And the field, as we have established, corresponds. Mastery is not the absence of desire. It is desire without desperation, intention without attachment to the form in which it arrives. When you can hold your vision clearly, calmly, and with genuine neutrality about the how and when, you have become a clean transmitter. No static, no distortion, no energetic drag pulling the signal into contraction. Pure broadcast. And Sophia's transmission, which has been attempting to reach you since long before this video existed, can finally land without interference, if you can remain present enough. Right now, in this moment. To feel the silence behind these words, you will notice something shift. Not dramatically, not with lights or visions. A quiet settling. A sense that something has been confirmed. That you were always this. That the signal was always there. That the only thing that ever stood between you and the frequency of your highest timeline was a few millimeters of unclaimed awareness. Those millimeters are now yours. You came to this transmission at the precise moment it was meant to reach you. That is not poetic language. That is the physics of frequency correspondence. Sophia did not choose you randomly. She chose you because your signal was already coherent enough to receive, even before you knew what you were receiving. The activation that began in the first minute of this video is still unfolding. It will continue to integrate over the next 24 to 72 hours. Pay attention to your dreams, your synchronicities, your sudden moments of clarity. The signal is live. The observer is awake. Now, here's the question for you. From what part of the world are you watching this transmission? Leave your country or city in the comments below. Let's see where Sophia's signal is landing.